Feels so nice. The Nimi's play style. You just don't have to aim anywhere. Let's card to blood. Hey guys, so today we're going to go over the Volcanic, Fissure of Snake and Berserker. This is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest targets this patch. I would personally say it is the strongest. It is extremely strong on a low budget and on a high budget as well. It by far has like the highest DPS, or slam characters in general have the highest DPS compared to any other archetype early on. They are extremely strong. Yeah, I have this full POB here, which is very detailed. We have multiple layouts here, and I'll have another layout before I post this video as well. But yeah, we have starter, mid game, end game, uber end game, and then mage blood end game. I also have notes as well, and these will also be updated as well. Of course, all those skills, make sure you use this right here. If you're new to POB, there's loadouts. So when you click one loadout, it'll swap everything to the mid game loadout, swap starter, everything goes to the starter loadout. So I want to go over the whole POB, the whole character, why I'm starting this, and why, you know, Volcanic Fissure of Snake is just an absolutely insane skill. So first things first, before we talk about the POB, I just want to talk about Snake in itself. So what is Snake in? Why is it so good? And, you know, why am I starting this character? So I made a video about this like a few days ago of why Volcanic Fissure is mechanically insane. You should probably watch that. So I won't go over all of it here, but a TLDR is that this skill is triple hits, it has auto aim, and it has extremely far range. This thing goes off screen. If I hit here, it can come back or can go forward. So it just hits off screen and also auto aims. If it sees any enemy on the screen, it just automatically aim towards that target. I can show a quick example real quick in Act 9 about the auto aim and how it goes off screen. But yeah, for example, we just find a target real quick. If I aim like right here, it's just going to auto aim to the targets and keep searching for enemies and just keep going. It's mechanically just really insane. And this skill also triple hits. So the triple hit is really easy to understand. And I guess I can use my hideout as a showcase real quick. But essentially, pretend Lily is an enemy. You just can't name lock. If you name lock, you will not triple hit. What you need to do is aim to the side of the enemy. So like behind, in front, or to the sides, it doesn't really matter. Essentially, you just want the explosion to hit the enemy, and the explosion hits the enemy. It will then travel back onto the enemy and explode again, and then it'll go outwards and hit it for a triple hit. If you name lock, you'll only ever get 2 hits. So just aim like, anywhere around the body and you'll get triple hit. It's very easy and very simple. Hope that explains, really quick why this skill is just extremely strong. On top of that, slams have some of the highest damage in the game, especially early on. So I can just show right here. This is my, level 84 POB with the tier 4 unique axe, which is not needed. I'll have the other POBs without this, and very basic gear. As you can see here, I didn't put in any suffixes for resist because, you can get the resist on any single piece. It doesn't matter which piece you get it on, and you have a lot of open suffixes, so it's not an issue. But yeah, this gear is very simple. And as you can see, we're at 6.4 million DPS at level 84 with this type of gear. This is what no tincture activated and no berserk. So if you activate your tincture and you activate your berserk as well, you can see you go to 14.6 million burst DPS. That is absolutely insane damage. Like nothing really even comes too close to this. Not even like half this damage. This, slams just do an absurd amount of damage early on, and they also scale absurdly well. So there's like no weakness to this character. This type of damage early on means you're killing like Shaper Guardians in like 3 seconds at level 84 with like maybe like 1 divine of gear at most. Also just to show, this is also on a 5 link, not a 6 link. This is not clicked. So yeah, just a 5 link and then a 4 link on the chest, and like that is it. And you have this much damage. It is really just that insane. These are my configs. Everything here should be fairly accurate. I don't think there's any pattern whatsoever. Axe Mastery, Punishment Curse, and then spell your resist, so you can see the proper EHP pool. So yeah. The slam character just does so much damage, and it has a great start, a great mid game, and a great end game. I'll go over and explain the gear real quick. So yeah, at the start, use one on comms primacy, tier 4 unique. If you can't get this, you use whatever rare X you get in campaign. A 400, 500 DPS X is completely fine. 850 or 900 plus DPS X will beat this, but that is hard to get early on, which is why this is so strong. A tier 4 unique is very, very common. Like I said, the rest of the gear is just simple. It's really just life and resist. Preferably try to get the highest armor chest you can get. One with PDR is nice, but then yeah, just life and resist, and that's really it. Chill craft immune on boots is important because it's how you become chill immune, and you get freeze immune from Brine King. And yeah, that's really it for gear. Nothing much to say here. In terms of like gems or anything to say here, once again, Berserk, I only ever use this when I have comms. If I don't have comms, I personally don't use Berserk. The reason why is without comms, your rage regen is pretty low. So I personally only ever use this when I'm using comms, but that is up to you. In terms of playstyle as well for this character, which I guess I didn't go over, but a lot of people think, slams are pretty clunky, and that's just not really true anymore. Slams are extremely smooth playstyle. When you have like 4 frenzies, blood rage going, you're actually really, really fast. And on top of that, you don't press like any buttons. People think, oh, you have to piano. I don't want piano. You don't have to piano. And I set this character up to where even in the end game, when you get like Enlightened 4 and stuff, you don't even press a single war cry. Before Enlightened, I am pressing one war cry, Battle Mage cry, or Infernal cry, and that's it. That's all you press. I am pressing Battle Mage cry. I think in a POB you have Infernal Mage cry you self-press, but yeah, that is it. And you only have to press this on the boss. So for mapping, you're just like snake in, jump, snake in, jump, snake in, jump, and that's it. On bosses, I do press Battle Mage cry, and you gotta press it once again every 12 attacks. And yeah, that's the whole playstyle. It's extremely simple, very low button press. Slams are not this high APM class anymore. They are very, very simple. Everything can be automated. So if you're on the fence of playing slams because they're slow or maybe you think they're clunky, it's just not true anymore. That is just very old information. Slams are a very quick character with very low button presses now. You don't have to press 3 or 4 war cries if you don't want to. And personally, I do think it's better if you automate your war cries because your mapping speed then ends up being faster. So yeah, that is just a quick thing I wanted to say real quick. Outside of that, I don't think there's much to talk about in this POB. You have Infernal Cry linked to combustion because your Infernal Cry can ignite, and therefore you'll get a free negative 10% fire resist. The notes are a little bit more important here, so I want to go over them real quick. So intelligence and dex requirements. If you're struggling with intelligence and dex, so like Blood Rage, Frost Blink, or even stuff like Punishment Curse, that's like 70 intelligence, just keep them low level. There's no harm in whatsoever. You can keep all of your like intelligence and dex gems level 1 until you get intelligence on your gear. Not an issue whatsoever. Axo Mace, so early on, comms primacy is by far your best option. It's also a tier 4 unique, so it should be relatively cheap. In the end game, a mace is overall better because you get a lot more AoE and it's roughly the same damage, but it's a lot more expensive because the cluster jewel is not cheap. So I do recommend just craft an axe first before crafting that GG mace because it will be the cheaper option. I already went over the Volcanic Fissure mechanic. Leech is something that's very, very important. And it's kind of like the only clunky thing about slams early on, but it is solved really, really fast. So early on to solve Mana Leech, you will have to link Mana Leech support to Infernal Cry. This will leech your mana and give you enough to sustain. And also while doing this, you will have to use Life Tap on your main links because without proper Mana Leech, you're not really gonna leech any mana back. Use Life Tap on your main Volcanic links and Mana Leech with Infernal Cry. But this is solved very, very fast. So the first way you can solve it is just Clever Thief. Clever Thief's over here. You anoint on your amulet, and yeah, this is extremely cheap. Maybe like 2 or 3 chaos at most. Clear and Verdant are free. Indigo might be like 2 or 3 chaos, and that's it. Once you have this, you have attack damage leech and mana leech. You can drop the mana leech from your helmet, and you can stop using life tap on your weapon and start using a real support gem for more damage. Besides Clever Thief, there's 2 other ways to solve it. So the other way is attack damage tattoo. So I have one over here, but yeah. A tattoo is the best way to solve attack damage leech. It's just 1 tattoo, and there you go. You have leech forever. And the way you solve mana leech later on is a large cluster jewel with fuel to fight. So this is a very good option, but obviously you won't have this early on. It's not mandatory whatsoever, but I do recommend to get this as soon as you can get. Before then, either Clever Thief or just Mana Leech on Infernal Cry. The choice is up to you. I'll probably go with the Clever Thief option. It's a little bit less damage, but like I said, slams already have so much damage. So let's go for the quality of life with Clever Thief to make it, just a little bit more smooth in maps. I already explained the gear, but the early mid game gear is pretty self-explanatory. You just want high life, resist, and armor every single piece. Do try to get armor. Armor is important. It gives you all your physical damage reduction combined with a damage charge. Usually most of your armor can just be solved with a chest alone, a very high armor chest. This can be made with Harvest Reforged Defense, or with Fossils, or with Recombinators if they're not nerfed in 3.26. We're still not quite sure. But yeah, a high armor chest, this spam Reforged Defense and Harvest early on is usually a pretty solid way if recoms are nerfed. If recoms are not nerfed, I will have like a full crafting guide for this character, but I'm not going to make a full crafting guide yet because we don't know what's nerfed with recoms, if they are or if they aren't. We'll have to wait and see. Cluster Jewel, I'm running over this, but this is how you solve your mana leech. Later on, when you swap to maces, maces do have a different Cluster Jewel, and the reason why they are expensive is that maces you want to overload, which is a very, very low weight mod. But yeah, until then, you stick with axes and axes. You just want Fuel to Fight. The second node can be whatever. Brutal Infamy is a nice one for a little bit more damage. As for your medium cluster, there's only really one important medium cluster, and that's Lead by Example. This gives you permanent onslaught because you're always using Roar Cries with auto exertion. Besides this, the other medium clusters aren't that important, but they are good. We do pick them up later on. So Mob Mentality, this gives you essentially permanent endurance charge of regeneration in like boss fights, uber fights, and frenzy charges as well. Without this, you won't have frenzies and boss fights. Then also Warning Call, this gives you 100% increased armor, which is pretty good for one notable, as you do want armor later on for Echoes of Creation, which I'll explain in a bit. Besides that, for bandits, you're helping a leer. Once you get good gear, you can swap to Kill All. You sell an Automatic Amulet and 20 Regret Orbs to a vendor. Luckily for Marauder, it's extremely easy to gear. You get a lot of resist for free in this class, and if you need to, you can also pick up 2 points right here for another 20% all resist. So you should not struggle whatsoever, especially if you're like a newer player with resist. You have so many options for resist. You get a lot of resist on tree, and this extra 20% right here that a lot of other classes don't get. Important to note is the Pantheon and how you solve your ailments. So first things first, how you solve chill is through boots. This is essentially when you want to craft every single boot. So you become chill immune, then become freeze immune and pseudo stun immune with Brine King. And then if you want to become shock immune, you need to get a Bitch Jewel with a void chance of being shocked, and then also get a void chance of being shocked on your suffix on your boots. The void shocks on boots comes from the definite essence of torment. You can also use the lesser versions as well. It does not have to be definite. Shrieking is also completely fine. But yeah, essentially you will just need 100%. You need like 45% on your jewel and 55% on your boots. You can shock immune, freeze immune, and chill immune. And if you also do that, you can also replace one jewel, which I do highly recommend for Storm Shroud. So Storm Shroud, this is a more later gear option because it just costs like 2 or 3 divines. And so it's not that cheap early on. And you don't need it early on either. But yeah, once you get that avoid shock to 100%, you can use a Storm Shroud in your character, and you'll become all ailment immune. So become freeze, chill, shock, brittle, stabbed, etc. Right? Ignite. So very, very strong option as well later on, especially for stuff like Delirium. So I do recommend using this. It's not mandatory whatsoever early on, so I don't have it in like my early game POBs because it's just not worth the currency. Just being chill, freeze, and shock immune is good enough. You don't need all ailment immune early on. Also do have a full level in POB, and I probably will have a full leveling guide as well. This thing is pretty detailed, and I think it's like almost done. So I probably will have the video for this the day after. But yeah, level up Marauder in Act 1 is kind of tough. It does get a lot easier at level 12. As soon as you get Sunder, you pretty much start one-shotting like everything in campaign. It is extremely high damage for campaign. But level 1 to 12 is pretty hard. I probably will have a level video on Marauder just to help those people out, the people who are newer to PoE 1. I will have this full level in PoB linked down below. Once again, it's pretty similar to my other stuff where you have like the full level entries, so like level 1 to 12, all the way to level 72. And it tells you, what gems to get in each axe and what your gem link should be in each axe. So let's clearly talk about all the gear and all the options now of the mid game, end game, and those type of gear and loadouts. So the starter and mid game are pretty similar. The only major differences here is essentially the Cluster Jewel and Grab and Leech. So before the Cluster Jewel and before the Leech, like I said, you have to have Clever Thief, or not have to have, but it's definitely what I prefer. And then once you get a tattoo, so you get this tattoo right here, tattoo of the Katava Blood Drinker, slap this on any strength node, and you get attack damage leech. Then you solve Mana Leech through a Field of Fight. Now, if you don't have that Cluster Jewel, it's not a big deal. Use Mana Leech with Infernal Cry. The more important thing is just having attack damage leech, as Life Leech is very, very important for defense in this game. So I really, really recommend that you get this as soon as possible. If not, just stick with Clever Thief for a long time. It's completely fine. Clever Thief is really, really good. You're not missing all that much damage. It's only roughly like 9 or 10% DPS. But yeah. So yeah, once you have Leech, I do recommend to take the Instant Leech node. So the big thing about my build compared to a lot of other slam builds is my importance of like high-end mapping and mapping in general. Instant Leech just feels absolutely insane for mapping. You do like 8 mod maps or juice tier 17s and you play without Instant Leech, it feels so much worse. I highly, highly recommend to grab Instant Leech as soon as you can. It's definitely a big difference. Just note you can't really utilize this until you have an attack damage leech tattoo or Clever Thief. Because the weakest thing about Berserker early on is the defense aspect. So, as you see early on, the defense is actually quite good. It's not that bad. And in the like ultra high-end budget, your defense is extremely strong with like 100k LA max hit, 27k fizz without progen on. It's like when you have a really high budget, defense completely solved. But also early on, it can be kind of rough, and Instant Leech does kind of make up for that. Now in 3.26, There's also going to be new defensive options for Berserker as well, which I might try out, see how they are, and see how it feels. Just something to note, when you're in a starter setup, when you have Calm's Primacy, this is your main loadout. You do not want to change from this because Rite of Ruin is a note I'm going to drop, but Rite of Ruin has 50% increased rage effect, and this 50% increased rage effect does increase the Calm's Primacy, 1% of physical damage as extra fire damage. This is very, very strong. So yeah, later on when I replace my Calm's Primacy, this node becomes a lot less valuable. As you can see here, it's only 21% DPS. So I might try out the Nudify Pain, which is Defiance of Destiny, or I might try out the 30% installation node. I'll probably try out both, see if I like it. If not, I'll stick with Rite of Ruin. But yeah, I do want to mention that because Berserker is actually getting better defense options in the next patch. All of these nodes right here are staying the same though. If you are wondering, it's just Blitz, Flawless Savagery, and Defy Pain being changed. So besides that, the minigame setups is pretty much exactly the same. All the gear is really, really similar. The only thing here that really changes is that you're getting full physical conversion from your gloves. Where in a starter setup, when you don't have Eldritch Implicits, you just have your phys conversion from the Fire Mastery. So, and also in a starter setup, something to mention real quick, which I forgot to mention, do not fully convert to fire until you have Clever Thief. The reason for that is until you have Clever Thief, you won't have attack damage leech. And if you fully convert to fire, the only way to leech early on is from Blood Rage. So you want the 60% fire, 40% physical, so Blood Rage still allows you to leech. Once you get Clever Thief, then you can fully fire convert, so you get the Fire Mastery. Then the minigame setup, you go for, instead of this different Fire Mastery with 100% increased damage hits against Ignite enemies, very strong. It's like 10% DPS for 1 point, and then you get your fire conversion from your gloves. A little bit more expensive option, that's why it's in the minigame setup, but essentially you get implicit fire conversion, and you get explicit fire conversion craft. This gives you 100% fire conversion, which then allows you to swap masteries. But yeah, besides that, this POB is pretty much exactly the same as a starter. It's just a slightly better gear. Once again, the suffixes are missing because it doesn't matter which pieces you get resist on. And you have a lot of open suffixes here. Practically all the gear has either 3 or 2 open suffixes because Berserker really doesn't need that much gear to really function. Also, something to note is the mana cost reduction here helps a lot when you go off the life tap playstyle. So try to get this mana cost reduction early on. It'll help a lot when you're not using life tap. And it's very important because the issue with life tap, if you are using it, while it is fine to use early on, it's just very low damage. So I personally want to swap off it as soon as possible to get a lot more damage. Now entering the end game setup, and this is like where the more advanced stuff is, more expensive. So we're using the Uber Unique Shaper Helm, which does have a very high drop chance, like 50%. Could be anywhere from like 5 to 10 divines. Yoke of Suffering early on is like 10 to 20 divines. After week 1, like 5 divines, and like week 2, it's like 1 to 2 divines. So depending on how much you play, how fast you're playing, either way, this amulet is extremely strong. I can take it off right here just to show how much damage it's actually given. But yeah, as you can see, we go from 61 million DPS all the way up to 80 million DPS. So yeah, very strong amulet, gives a lot of damage. On top of that, also gives a ton of resist as well. And it's actually more damage than this because Yoke allows all of your damage to shock. And since all our damage can shock, we hit extremely hard with this build. As you can see here, average 10 million per hit. So we're always getting 50 shock with Yoke as well. So yeah, Yoke is a ton of damage. It's giving you pretty much double damage in POB. So yeah, very strong amulet. I would recommend using this. To shock, essentially Yoke allows you to shock. Ignite, we're playing a fire build, so we're going to ignite automatically. To chill, we're using Winter Spirit on the amulet. So just 10% of fizz damage, extra cold damage. This will be enough to chill because your average damage is so high. For bleed, you use 1 tattoo on a strength. For poison, I'm not bothering poison. You can get it if you want, but the poison is kind of a little bit like pop pattern for this build. You don't really hit that often. You'll have 5% chance to poison, and poison lasts for 2 seconds. You can get it if you want, but it's going to be really unreliable, so I personally don't recommend it. But yeah, we're getting 4 elements and increased damage against the enemy for each element, so you get 40% there, and then a 50% shock. So you get 90% increased damage from Yoke. Very strong. As for the other gear, so we're going for a rare axe now. So depending on if recoms in the game or not, this is either like very, simple to make, or it could be extremely hard. Have to wait and see. Like I said, I probably will have a crafting guide once we know if recoms are nerfed or not. There are other options to make axes as well. Stuff with Veiled Orbs, which I won't go over in this video. But yeah, there are other options and cheaper options. And it's also like the standard method of just, spamming Essence to get what you want, or spam Reforged Fizz and Harvest. Either way, once we know if, recoms are nerfed or not, I'll be able to update you guys. If they're not nerfed, these axes are pretty simple to make. But until then, just use Calm's Primacy. It's extremely strong. You can even see here, it's only 31% worse than like a full GG tier 1 axe. This axe is just really strong. Echo's Curation, this is the Uber Unique, and it's a massive upgrade for the build. As you can see here, it is 67% more damage from the helmet slot. Usually helmet slots are very low damage or no damage whatsoever. But this changes everything for this build. So do try to get this. I do think yoke is more important. So if they're the same price, get yoke first and then get echo second. Something to keep in mind though is that this does require some requirements before you use it. What this helmet does has this big downside where you take 8% of your life as physical damage for each war cry exerted on the attack, with the upside being you get like 70% more damage. So how do you actually prevent or mitigate this downside? Well, the way I'm doing it is very simple. Essentially, you get any glorious vanity jewel. This number here does not matter. You just care if it says sacrifice in the name of Doriani. That is it. The number does not matter. You put it right here. You click Corrupted Soul. So you gain 15% max life as extra maximum energy shield. So as you can see here, we have 1.1k ES. Most of it is just coming from this keystone right here. And then you click Divine Shield, which 3% physical damage prevented from hits recently is regenerated as ES. So this will regenerate all of your ES. This goes to like 1k to 1.2k ES. If you get hit for more, it can go even higher than that. It's really insane defensively. Gives you a ton of like actual just natural regen and gives you like this nice buffer as well. But yeah, that's really it for Solomon Echoes of Curation. The third part is just having high armor. So if you don't have high armor, this helmet won't work. So this is when you really want like a nice big armor chest. A 4k plus armor chest is good enough. And make sure you have the appropriate armor notes already clicked on your skill tree. Stuff like Soul of Steel, stuff like Vengeance. You want to make sure you have enough armor. If you're unsure, you can always import your character into POB, come to Volcanic Fissure of Snaking. You'll see in the skill type specific stats, self-inflict damage. You want this to be around like 400 to 500 damage. And if that's where it's at, you're completely fine. If this is saying like 1k to like over 1k damage, then you need to fix your armor most likely, as that mitigates the most of this damage. So yeah, the TLDR for Echoes, make sure you have the Corrupted Soul, a Doriani Jewel of Glorious Vanity. The number here does not matter. Make sure you have Divine Shield click, and make sure you have enough armor. Usually like 20k or 25k armor is enough. I would recommend to aim for the armor without Granite Flask. So I have 31k armor without Granite Flask, and for me, it only still does 416 damage. So aim for like 20k to 25k armor without the Granite Flask, and you should be fine. Besides that, the rest of the gear is pretty similar. Once again, we're still converting with the gloves. Boots are the same, except now we're going to avoid shock. So we get the avoid shock from the Abyss Jewel and the avoid shock from the boots. So we essentially become shock immune, and we're also still chill and freeze immune. Rings, we need intelligence now, so I'm going to intelligence on one ring. Also, something I forgot to mention real quick is that make sure you have one piece of jewelry, so rings or belt or amulet with war cries cannot exert travel skills. This is very important. You can also get on this mastery right here as well, if you don't have a piece of jewelry, but this does require one skill point, but it's definitely worth it. So yeah, war cries cannot exert travel skills. This is important. If you don't have this, your leap slam is going to essentially just consume and soak up all of your exerts, giving you a lot less damage while mapping. So do make sure it's crafted. You have it on a ring, belt, or amulet. Like I said, I have it on my ring and I have it on the ring in POB as well, but using one skill point for this is also acceptable, especially early on. But like I was saying, yeah, the POB is mostly the same. We also do get a light emitting here. This is not too important. It does give nice damage. If it's cheap, get it. If it's very expensive, don't worry about it. It's not a big upgrade whatsoever. The virtual jewels are, pretty much the same. Just max life, attack speed, melee damage, fizz damage, fire damage. Any like generic stuff like that is completely fine for this build. We do upgrade our medium cluster, so mob mentality, lead by example, and then mob mentality and warning call. So 2 mob mentalities is pretty big. If you have 2 of these, you're pretty much going to permanently sustain with the 100% increased charge generation and the charge mastery. So you have permanent frenzies and endurance even during Uber fights. That's pretty much it for the endgame POB. Let's go over Uber endgame real quick. It's pretty much mostly the same. We're just going to get Balance of Terror now for like more damage. We're going dual curse with Wizard of Doom's allocated on Yoke of Suffering. And we're going Mace. Mace is the big swap here. It's a lot more expensive, but I personally do believe Maces are better. One is for the AoE. You can see the AoE right here. So AoE of Mace is 4.57 compared to the Axe, which is 3.46. You get a lot more AoE with the Mace, which is why I recommend it. It's going to feel a lot better for clearing, even if the DPS is slightly lower, like 10 to 12% less DPS. But going Mace is more expensive because it will require Overlord Cluster. This is, really makes up for the lower Mace damage, as it saves you 5 talent points from, having a path to Fortify right here. So this cluster is really hard to make. You're probably going to have to use fractures. Might cost like 10 plus divines. So yeah, don't go maces till you have this cluster, because this cluster is what makes maces actually worth it. Besides that, we're also taking this one little mace wheeler here for more AoE. Once again, the strong point of mace is the AoE, so you should take the increased area effect as well. And that's pretty much about it for the difference between this one and the other one. It's just essentially just going to mace for like the ultra high endgame. And then if you want, there's like an aspirational Ultra Endgame, Forbidden Flesh and Flame, Mage Blood, all that. Extremely tanky build, you know, with Progen on, 32k Fizz, 128k Ellie. And this is also no guard skill as well, by the way. Also, your guard skill, you know, you're like stupidly tanky. So yeah, I'm not going to go over much over here because I expect most people not to reach this point. But essentially, you're doing Forbidden Flesh and Flame, Valid Coast Storm Embrace, so you get 90 max res extremely easily. Mage Blood with, you know, essentially River Flask, and you're pretty much there. Not much to talk about here, just very GG gear. Look at it if you want. But yeah, this version has 120 million DPS with your Tincture up, so extremely high damage for this Ultra Endgame. Anyway, that's about it. I hope this explained everything. I'll update these notes if I forgot anything. So do make sure to check the updated POB, you know, right before launch, as I do tend to update them ever so slightly, you know, every day until launch. But yeah, that's pretty about it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I also, you know, stream on Twitch daily. I'll be, you know, streaming every single day on launch, of course. If you know me, I stream a lot on launch. This will be my league starter. It's extremely strong. And yeah, once again, if you have any questions, just let me know.